Are you trying to make a guest list, but you're not really sure where to start? Well, this is the perfect video for you. Let's get going.
It's a beautiful night. We're looking for something dumb to do. Hey, baby, I think I want to marry you.
Hey everyone, it's your favorite wedding planner, Bree here. Today I really just wanted to talk about creating a guest list because this is one of the first steps you're going to have to take in your wedding planning journey because you can't even really find a venue until you at least have an idea of your guest list. Obviously, I know making a guest list can also be pretty difficult, especially with other families' input and things like that. So that's really why I wanted to go over making a guest list and give you some tips so that it can make it a little bit easier. All right, so let's get into creating your guest list. Let's get into some tips for how to do that. The first one is generally going to be, figuring out a budget and talking to your family as well. A budget will let you know how many people that you can invite based off of what you can afford. But also you need to talk to your family because if they're going to help pay, then you need to know what they're going to be able to afford as well or be able to help with. It sucks, but if your parents are inviting or are paying for certain portions of the wedding, they might try to invite people that they want. Not saying they should. That is completely up to you, whether you want those people to come or not. And you should not let your parents dictate who should be at your wedding. But if they're paying, they might try to, have some input on that. So you're gonna definitely wanna be aware of that. But also, before putting money down, you're gonna kind of wanna talk to them and negotiate, if you will, who they want there versus who you want there. Because if there's somebody who you've never heard of, some third cousin from Italy who you've never heard of, why would you want them at your wedding? You don't know who they are. That's an extra however many dollars per person that you would be paying. But even though it's kind of an annoying step, you do need to talk to your family first. After speaking with your family, step 2 is going to be making your guest list, but you need to first figure out your method that you're going to make your guest list on. Obviously, pen and paper has been a huge one throughout the years, but now there are so many different apps or websites that you could use to create a guest list so that you can both check in anywhere. You don't need that piece of paper. You can check in on your phone, you can check in anywhere and see who's on the list versus who's not, or add or take people off. So, there's online apps. I know The Knot, Here Comes the Guide. They all have apps where you can create a guest list. I'm sure there's other apps that are just creating a guest list, right? Another huge one that people use, and it's pretty easy to access on your phone now as well, is Excel. An Excel sheet will make everything so easy. And then you can both just have it, or you could do a Google Sheet, which means that you could both see when each other makes changes, if that's kind of a way you want to go as well. It's just going to make it easier for you to access your guest list anytime, any place, and for both of you to access your guest list, because the guys need to be involved as well. All right, after coming up with a method of creation, you're going to want to take step number 3, which is going to be to design your dream list. This is your list of people that you would love to invite. Beware, later on, you're probably going to have to cut that down. But we always recommend a dream list first, because then okay, if we have the money, we can invite all these people. But then you can also look back at that list and kind of take people off based on something we're going to talk about a little later. But just make your dream list. All the people that you want to invite, no limits. It's just for fun, just for you to see. Then we're going to get into step number 4, which is your realistic list. So for this one, you're going to cut people off of your dream list. I know that sounds kind of mean, but basically you're going to cut it down to the bare essentials. You're going to cut it down to, parents, siblings, grandparents, best friends, people who are literally in your life every single day is kind of the people you really need to know. And then later on, you can add on to that realistic list if there's more money in the budget or more room at the venue. You want to basically remember +1s as well, because a lot of people don't. Obviously, if someone's married, you're going to invite both of them. But if it's a single person, generally a +1 is allowed. So you also want to account for that in your guest list. All right. Step number 5, cutting rules. come up with rules for cutting people off of that ideal dream guest list. So essentially what you should do is come up with a couple different rules, maybe 3 different rules on, okay, if this person hasn't been talked to by me in 3 years or more, why am I inviting them to my wedding? Unless there's some sort of family and you're obligated. But, or, you know, haven't heard of them because my mom wants them to be invited. Or, oh, we don't want kids at the wedding. That could cut down your guest list. It can be an adult-only wedding. So come up with a few rules that will make it a little bit easier to cut from that dream guest list, and then also stick to those rules. Don't make exceptions. Stick to the rules that you're going to make, but also make rules that you know you're going to stick to. Once you cut your guest list down, step number 6, I would say, is to make an A list and a B list. So basically what that is, I mean, I know it sounds bad, but A-listers and B-listers. So people who are essential, coming to the wedding no matter what. And then a B list, which is if we have the budget and we want to invite more people, this is the list we're gonna go with. I know this seems like a lot of work making all these different lists, but it will give you visuals on what you wanna do, how much you wanna spend, etc. Important one, step number 7, don't let your parents win. Do not let them invite a bunch of random people you do not want at the wedding. Whose wedding is it? Oh yeah, it's your wedding. Do not let your parents invite random people that you don't even know. What's the point of that? You're gonna have random people coming up to you at your wedding, talking to you, and you're not even gonna know their name probably. So do not let your parents win. I don't care if they're paying for it or not. It's still your wedding. You have the power to say no. All right, step 8, and I always put this on there just because, add-ons. So you're going to want to leave some room for add-ons. There might be somebody you forgot and you're gonna need a few extra spaces for them. There might be forceful push-ins of some sort, which could be a +1 that you weren't expecting, or a family member who all of a sudden is like, oh, I'm coming, and even though you didn't invite them. Just always have the backup room. Always just make sure you have that little extra cushion in everything you do in a wedding, even a guest list, just in case. Just in case. We're always talking just in case. All right. Obviously, all of these rules that I just went over are kind of my guideline for making a guest list. If you don't want to make all those lists, you don't have to. I just think that it's going to make it easier for you to see all of these different lists and kind of narrow it down based on who you actually really need there versus who you would just like to be there. Especially if you are on a tight budget, you really need to make all of those lists and then have that backup list, that A list, B list, just in case. Hey, you never know what could happen. Maybe some money will fall out of the sky. And then also have that cushion like I was talking about. That cushion is pretty important just because there's always going to be some kind of something. And hey, if you don't use the cushion, well, it's less people than you expected to be there and you're spending less money. What's the problem with that? All right, that is it for today. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below, and I will see you next week for another wedding planning session. Bye.
Got a pocket full of cash we can blow. Shots of Patrón.